Cannabis is considered a sacred plant in the Vedas, being described as a bringer of joy and freedom. And it's also been linked to yoga and spiritual practices for centuries to enhance meditation for sadhus and deepen a sense of connection to God or the divine. This plant companion, for those trying to get closer to the mysteries of existence, can reveal deep truths about yourself in the process and bring you into closer alignment with your authentic nature, the version of yourself that is without limitations or self doubt, which can be seen as being more empathetic, peaceful, open, and creative. In these ways, cannabis can guide you home to yourself, to your true nature. In today's video, I want to talk to you about how cannabis can help you come back to your true nature. But not only that, I also want to talk about how to integrate the insights that you receive while communing with cannabis into your everyday life. Because even though cannabis can sort of open a door back to yourself, it's up to you as an individual to step past the threshold and embody the insights that you receive into your daily practices, into the spaces that you frequent, and into your relationship with all beings. So let's start off with the most misunderstood and underappreciated thing that cannabis does for us. And undoubtedly, we've all experienced it before. And that is that cannabis reveals your shadow. In 2021, I contributed a chapter on cannabis to a book called How Psychedelics Can Help Save the World by Stephen Gray. And I talked about all aspects of cannabis, but there's a little sliver of it that I dedicated to how cannabis can help us see into our shadow. And I'll put a little clip of it here. And in the same way that cannabis can reveal the light in a situation and in ourselves and just make us appreciate certain elements that we don't usually see and bring us closer to the mysteries of existence, she does the same thing with illuminating our shadow. The shadow is the part of ourselves that we wish to keep hidden or repressed, not only from the world, but buried deep within ourselves and locked behind the closed doors. These aspects can include unwanted emotions, desires, fears, or behavioral patterns that just don't really align with our conscious perception of ourselves. And what cannabis does is that she breaks that door down. And oftentimes we're not prepared to see what's behind the door because we've worked so hard to repress our shadow. So this could manifest as your self doubting, anxious thoughts getting a little louder or getting a megaphone when you are under the influence of cannabis. The judgments you have about yourself and project onto others that are usually in the background suddenly take the foreground. And when this happens, people automatically say cannabis is bad because it made me feel uncomfortable, when the truth is that cannabis is just a mirror. Cannabis amplifies and intensifies what is already present within us. She doesn't create hallucinations. She doesn't plant anything into your mind that isn't already there. She's just unbiased about what gets the spotlight in your inner landscape, which is why it's really important to make sure that you're feeling quite balanced before you even sit to journey with cannabis. So, how can identifying your shadow help you come home to yourself or come home to your true nature? A big part of it comes from integration. Oftentimes, we think of our shadow as a scary thing or something to be avoided, when in reality, everything has both light and dark. Everything is composed of a dual nature, and it's our complementary nature that keeps us balanced. As much as some spiritual people want to love and light you to death, nothing is made out of all light. And your shadow or darkness is not something to run away from.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
There's so much good that happens in the dark or in the shadow. Seeds grow in the earth, it's super dark, and then they sprout into nutrients for us and other creatures. Babies are gestated in the womb, another super dark, shadowy place. So, first of all, you need to distance yourself from the idea that shadow means dark. And in revealing our shadow, not only is cannabis asking us to, or guiding or inviting us to practice non judgmental awareness of all parts of ourselves, she is also inviting us to practice compassion and unconditional love and acceptance of our whole, perfectly imperfect self. And integration starts with acceptance. When you're able to accept your shadow, however it shows up, maybe you notice that you tend to have self sabotaging tendencies, or maybe you notice you're holding envy in your heart over someone else's perceived success. However it shows up, allow yourself to just accept that. And then from there, you can integrate your shadow. And when you integrate your shadow, you become whole and balanced without having or holding any shame about any part of yourself. So, some ways that you can integrate your shadow by journaling either every day or every few days. For integration to be useful, you want to have a ritual or routine around it. So if you can make a daily practice, then great. If you can make a weekly practice, that's great too. Just let it be accessible for you and something that you know that you will do. So journaling will be nice. Again, non-judgmentally, just noticing how your shadow comes up, maybe during meditation or while you're sitting with cannabis, and write down while practicing non-judgmental awareness, just kind of as if you're doing a field study, as if you're a scientist observing yourself and just taking notes without adding any extra labels. Another way that you can integrate your shadow is also by doing a meditation for self compassion. That's just a nice place to come at it from so that you can release as much judgment as you can. And again, just practice loving awareness and loving kindness to yourself. And the best thing about integrating your shadow is that you're able to accept yourself wholly, and that ripples out into you being able to accept others wholly. The grace that you extend to yourself to be imperfect is the grace that you can then extend to other people to also be imperfect. Because integration isn't just some secret thing that only happens in your body and only happens for yourself. The sign that integration practice is actually helpful is that you start to notice how it shows up outside of your mat or outside of your journaling, and how it starts to shape the way that you move in the world. And when you're able to resolve your repressed feelings about your shadow and integrate your shadow and become whole and balanced, you start to embody your true authentic self, flaws and all. And what that can tend to feel like, a sign that you've integrated your shadow, is that you start to feel more clarity. Your thoughts and actions start to align a little bit more. You have a deeper sense of compassion and you feel more connected to your intuition. You can also feel deeper peace and a greater sense of energy when you've integrated your shadows. These are signposts that you can look for if you're wondering, have I integrated my shadow? Is what I'm doing working? Another way that cannabis can help you come back to your true nature is that she makes us vulnerable. In revealing our shadow, cannabis rips the mask off of your face. And we all wear a mask. You have a mask for when you're with a certain group of friends. You have a different mask for when you're around your family, a different mask for when you're around your coworkers or your boss, a different mask for when you're at the grocery store where no one knows you. We all wear a mask. And during a cannabis journey, you're laid bare. Your mask is ripped off and there's nowhere to hide. Thankfully, cannabis, even though it's a psychedelic, a sacred plant medicine, she does it in a way that's a lot gentler than other forms of plant medicine, which can tend to just lay you bare and you have nothing to do about it. Cannabis doesn't dissolve your ego, so you're very aware that you are exposed, and you can either fight against it or you can just give in to the experience. Our becoming vulnerable is why we're able to just dive deep into philosophical, very personal conversations with people whenever we're under the influence with cannabis. She just tends to soften our hard edges, making us really malleable and receptive, closer to our natural state of ease that comes from not fearing being judged and also allowing ourselves to be fully present. Being vulnerable is often associated with being weak or at risk, but the kind of vulnerability that cannabis offers you is similar to what you experience with a trusted friend or a partner. It's like exposing your soft white underbelly, speaking very frankly and openly about a part of yourself or a thought that you have that you may not be fully confident in, and then allowing others or even yourself to respond to that part of you. And in making you feel vulnerable, cannabis actually guides you to become more comfortable just being yourself and expressing yourself freely. Some ways that you can integrate the experience of being more vulnerable, obviously with discernment, are to just embrace being soft in a world that encourages us to be hardened. You can also, if you find that your vulnerabilities are related to your physical body, do a mirror meditation. Sit in front of a mirror for 10 minutes and just gaze at your own eyes. You can also do this while nude or fully clothed, whatever you're comfortable with. But this is a great way to see your whole self and truly be vulnerable and laid bare while also practicing non judgmental awareness. Linked to that, you can also do a body scan meditation where you don't need to look at yourself, you just close your eyes and notice how your body is feeling from the crown of your head all the way down to your toes. You can also talk about your fears and your shames with a therapist. Cannabis is a great eye opener and she reveals a lot of truths about yourselves, and she's a great companion plant. So if you are sitting with her and you notice stuff coming up, maybe you don't know how to unpack that on your own, it's really nice to have a support of a therapist or some other professional to kind of help you pass through and peel back the layers of exactly what it is that you're experiencing during your journey. And another way that you can integrate vulnerability is just to bring down your walls during challenging conversations. And that can just mean speaking very clearly and directly without needing to tiptoe around a conversation, without leaving things unsaid or grimacing at your perceived imperfections, and just allowing yourself to fully be seen. Now, in 2025, where thankfully a lot of people are going to therapy, um, many of us have boundaries, but oftentimes we kind of exaggerate it and think we have boundaries, but we've actually created fortresses. So try to integrate vulnerability a little bit more often, whether it's once a day or once a week. Give space for people to respond to exactly who you are standing in front of them without having to put your mask on. That being said, integration is really, really personal to the individual. I can suggest these, but let it be, tailor it to fit your own situation. Make it accessible, make it feel compassionate and creative for yourself. And as I said, make it um, fit your schedule. So if this isn't something that you can practice necessarily every single day, aim for once a week. And know that nothing is in stone. You can decide, oh, I'm going to do a mirror meditation every single day after I get home from work. If you notice that mirror meditations actually aren't very supportive for you, you can see what else feels good to try instead. Another way that cannabis can call you home to your true nature is that she can alter your perspective. Cannabis turns our very narrow worldview into a wide lens view where we're able to incorporate other people's experiences, other people's truths, and just get a new understanding on something somewhat spontaneously. Stepping outside of our own stories and in that, building our empathy and understanding. This shift in perspective that cannabis gives us also attunes our senses to notice beauty. That's why a song that you've heard 100 times can all of a sudden sound brand new. That's why the wind rushing through the trees can feel like it's awe inspiring out of nowhere. Your breath can feel brand new, and you just feel more connected to the human experience, which is exactly why cannabis has historically been utilized as a sacrament to bring joy, happiness, and freedom. This shift of perspective also attunes our senses to better appreciate the beauty in the world. And in revealing our blind spots, cannabis makes us more forgiving, less strict when we're talking to people that we may be in conflict with. They become less of an opposition and more of a problem to be solved and understood because you're not only feeling more vulnerable, you've softened your hard edges, but now your mind has expanded a little bit to be able to hold another truth that may look different from your own. Also, when cannabis shifts our perspectives, we tend to worry a lot less about the smaller things and maybe some big things too, at least momentarily. And we shift our energy to take what is within our control into our control. We like clear mental and emotional space of things that we can't directly influence, and then we are able to better harness our energy to what we can do something about. And overall, these shifts in perspective and overall openness return us to our true nature of creativity. We are all creative beings, regardless of whether you want to claim the title of artist. We create all the time, but oftentimes we use our creative energy to create imaginative scenarios in our minds or to create worry or even just to do basic tasks like plan your route to work or plan your route around a grocery store. Those are all creative acts, just different from creating a painting or writing a book. Of course, if you're naturally inclined to being a creative and actually calling yourself artist, you'll notice these perspective shifts in your actual art and what you do produce. Whether you all of a sudden feel like you want to paint a new picture or you want to go out and take some shots as a photographer. And if you really want to integrate these experiences that you have with your perception being altered, it's really good to do it when cannabis is fresh in your system because she influences the creation of neural pathways. And we're going to feel that the closest to when you first consume the cannabis or when she's still at least in your system. And some ways that you can do that are one of my favorites. I love doing a gratitude practice. As soon as you wake up and you're pottering around your house, the house is still very quiet, just list 1 to 3 things that you're grateful for that day. And this can root you back into the beauty of the world and the beauty of human experience and your personal human experience just in a matter of seconds. You can also meditate after journeying with cannabis, just noting down every single beautiful thing that you noticed. And you can make it a list. It doesn't have to be beautiful sentences. Just write lists of some things that you noticed or some things that you thought. And you can always revisit that when you're wanting to integrate the experience of your perspective being shifted or altered. If you're someone who tends to get munchies like I do, you can use the perspective shift of enjoying the flavors of food more by also making it a creative endeavor. Maybe making something that feels creative, not only nutritiously, but maybe with different colors and maybe using some seasonal ingredients that you don't typically use. And that's just a really small way that you can integrate your perspective shift that doesn't have to feel like a huge task or something that you're doing that's separate from your life. This is something that can be incorporated into your life and also be a really good way of sustaining yourself. Another thing that you can do is just take a different route home from work, take in new sights, see a new space that you maybe don't typically see. So, just like meditation, it really doesn't matter that much what happens when you sit. What really matters is what comes as soon as you come out of your meditation. So, do you take that presence of mind, your calmness, your understanding, and compassion into the world, or does it just stop at the borders of your mat? In integrating new perspectives, you come home to your capital S self that isn't defined by your labels or opinions or your personality, but is always shifting and changing according to your environment, both inside and outside. So, like I said before, cannabis opens the door to yourself, but it's up to you to step through. So, let me tell you a secret. When you distill your heartfelt experiences into your everyday acts, you do not need to consume cannabis every single day. When you're integrating, you're creating daily or weekly rituals that weave the sacred experience that you had with cannabis with your everyday, just mundane life. Because your time with cannabis doesn't need to end when you're done sitting with her. You're still feeling the effects after you've finished your joint. You're still feeling the effects an hour later. You can still feel the effects the next day, especially when you have integrating rituals and practices to help you remember these certain mind states that you're able to access with cannabis's guidance. Just like any good plant teacher or any good mentor in general, they prep you for graduation where you don't need them as a constant reference in order to get by. And you, as a good student, should measure yourself by being able to embody the lessons and not always having to return back to your teacher. This doesn't mean that you just smoke once and never again, but maybe if you're a daily smoker and it's not for pain or any other medical issues, maybe you can dial it back to once every 3 days or once a week and notice the potency of your experiences and then fill in the gaps between your journeying with some daily or weekly rituals that bring you back home to yourself and that continue to pull forward the insights and experience of your cannabis journey. Integration is a really the most important part of working with cannabis and really any plant medicine. These plant teachers are sacred and they are spirits, and our relationship to them needs to be reciprocal. When you integrate your practices, you're telling the plant that you appreciate the insights that they have given you with, and you're not going to forget them and you're not going to take them for granted. So, when people say that cannabis is a gateway drug, believe them. Cannabis opens a portal to yourself, and it's up to you to embody them. You can just experience what you do in the realm of your high and then leave it there, or you can embody this awakening to your true nature with small and large practices to integrate it into your everyday experience. So now that you know the how, it's up to you to start practicing and experiencing. I can teach you how to integrate and what it means to integrate, but no one else can do that part for you, which is why I have a digital container for you to come home to the splendor of your true nature through cannabis supported yoga and meditation classes, and it's called the Yoga Portal. You can come home to yourself through an archive of classes and weekly class uploads, as well as live sessions twice a month so that you can connect with community who are also part of this yoga portal. I also offer a monthly theme and kind of guiding star for extended focus and opportunities for growth. And with that, I share two essays slash podcast episodes. The first being on how the theme has shown up in my life in particular and how I've integrated it. And the second being a reflection on the book of the month that helps us dive deeper into the topic of the monthly theme and integrate it not only into our yoga practice, but into our daily lives. It's a whole rabbit hole that you can dive into right now from the comfort of your living room. So let me know some of the ways that you integrate your psychedelic experiences into your daily lives, or whether this is even a practice for you at all, whether this is the first time that you're hearing of integration when it comes to psychedelics or cannabis in general. I hope that you found this video helpful overall. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out. Let YouTube know that you liked what you learned today. And I will see you next time.